and this is our home for the next 3 nights.
Welcome to our Kgalagadi Winter 2024 series. After a wonderful summer there, we have been very excited to be going back to the Kgalagadi for a winter season. We booked this trip just under a year ago and did not get all the days we wanted because it was already booked out, but by the time we went on the trip, we got exactly what we wanted. We spent 3 nights at Rooiputs, 3 nights in Nossob, and 4 nights at Polentswa, finishing off with 1 night at 2 Rivers. So in total, we were away for 11 nights. This was the first time we had spent quite so much time in the Botswana side of the Kgalagadi, namely Rooiputs and Polentswa. We made our bookings so that it would be broken up with 3 days in Nossob in between, just to give us a bit of a reprieve, especially because when you have kids, being in a wild camp is a little bit more anxiety provoking, but also an opportunity to charge up all our devices in the event that our solar was not coping. And it was a little bit nerve-wracking to spend so much time offline and without any electricity. You really do feel vulnerable in the park when you are in the middle of nowhere, especially Polentswa, and help is quite far away. The Kgalagadi in the winter is quite different from an experience of the Kgalagadi in summer. It is marked by crystal clear nights, beautiful stars, wonderful days, exceptionally comfortable weather, I find. Although it can get cold at night sometimes, it is really quite incredible during the day with a wonderful 25 to 30 degree temperate climate. Although I would say that the sightings in summer are usually more exceptional, I do feel like winter is far more relaxing and in many ways far more beautiful. For photographers, landscapes are incredible, as well as astrophotography, which is something that myself, I'm trying to find out more about and get more opportunities to try.
The Rooiputs campsite on the Botswana side of Kgalagadi is super basic. Each site gets an undercover A-frame, which helps give shade during the hot summer months. There is a pit toilet and a shower, which only has cold water, and these are shared between 2 campsites.
We set off from Cape Town at about 4 in the morning and arrived at the park at 4 in the afternoon, which gave us enough time to get to Rooiputs and set up. As we did in summer, we set up with a little room that we had created out of Velcro and ground sheets that we attached as side walls from our awning. But we also, this time, took a windshield to create an additional barrier on the one side so that we could be quite comfortable when working in the kitchen as well. That little barrier ended up being invaluable on this trip, and I don't think I'd ever do it without it again. We were booked for Rooiputs at campsite 6, which means we were staying on the other side of the campsites at Rooiputs that we had stayed prior. 1 to 4 is sort of on the dunes, and 5 and 6 are closer to the lodge and the Waterhole. honestly, I don't think there's a bad campsite at Rooiputs. I would rate them quite equally.
Okay, that's the moon in the background, not focused. Epic. And this is our home for the next 3 nights.
When we were in the Kgalagadi in summer, we found that sunsets and evenings, usually the wind picked up, and sitting around a fire became quite challenging, and most of the time it was actually impossible to enjoy without worrying about the change in the weather, because usually by nightfall the wind would come in at sunset and the storm would quickly follow in thereafter. This is something we've experienced sort of 2 summers in a row now, and I'm not sure if it's the norm, but it certainly has been our norm. The one nice thing about winter is that you can really sit around a fire at night, and it's so calm. I often say that summer is wild, and it really is, but winter is calm, and the evenings and the night sounds, as well as the early mornings, are just so relaxing, where you really get to enjoy camping outdoors and not feel like you have to always batten down the hatches. I don't know if you also experience this, but your first morning when you go on your first game drive in any park is always filled with so much excitement and anticipation. We had this whole breakfast picnic planned at Melkvlei and had set everything up and packed everything neatly and left for our first drive.
Okay, so from Rooiputs we thought we'd come through to Melkvlei for a breakfast and make some jackals. Just wanted to note, please make sure that you've got a picnic bag packed before you come, because we were going to have bacon and cheese jaffles, and we forgot the knife and we forgot the pan. So we're having leftover porky roll instead. Beautiful though, absolutely stunning. Weather's a lot better than Cape Town at the moment.
I'm absolutely sure I'm not alone in this, but you know that feeling when you think you have packed everything and then you discover you've left some basic essential behind and you can't actually do what you had planned because you don't have the knife or the pan.
After a morning picnic at Melkvlei picnic site, we were lucky enough to see the 3 musketeer cubs on top of one of the dunes. Not as nice of a sighting as we had last year, but really, really nice to see this time around. The musketeer sighting wasn't very eventful, as they were just lounging around on top of the dune, not doing much, getting up every now and again, walking a couple of paces and then collapsing back down again. It was a typical Kgalagadi lion sighting, whereby they were settling in for the day.
One of the advantages with staying at Rooiputs is the ability to use the Botswana roads, one of which is running parallel to the usual Nossob Valley road, but is much narrower and further in of the dunes. You get the opportunity to see the wildlife from a different angle, and the roads are also far more interesting sometimes a little bit dangerous, but mostly good. Instead of driving all day, at Rooiputs we did spend a lot of our time at camp during the daytime hours, and were entertained by the local jackals who would do their rounds. I think they walked from 1 to 6 and back to 1 and did these circuits, testing out if people were there and what they could steal, because if you just turned your back, those little jackals were very sneaky and would look for any opportunity to scavenge and steal from you. It's a summer melon.
Sour melon.
Summer?
You eat them.
There are many animals that are seen on a daily basis in the Kgalagadi that are endemic to the park. Your oryx, springbok, blue wildebeest, just to name a few. Instead of just driving past them in search of bigger and better sightings, the cats, it's a good idea to stop, switch off your engines, and watch some of the fascinating interactions between these animals.
You say it's a grass bird.
I think so.
I'm going to have to look it up. The KK Waterhole is one of the best waterholes in the park, I would say. It's up there with Polentswa. It really is always full of activity, whether it's the birding, which we experienced on our first proper afternoon in the park, or whether it's lions or just antelope walking in for a drink. It is a waterhole that is full of life and one of the main attractions of this area. If you've seen our summer series, you'd know that this particular summer we were there, it rained almost every day, and the last summer we were there, it also rained the majority of the time. So when you go to the Kgalagadi in the middle of summer, it's worth remembering that in terms of planning. However, the greatest advantage of winters is that you have the best sunrises and sunsets without the risk of rain most days. It is known as the Kalahari dry season, and the rest of the year is kind of on and off, but mostly dry. Despite it being full moon when we arrived at Rooiputs, the nights and the stars were exceptional. It's so nice to sit there and look up and just see endless stars and watch the satellites pass and have the occasional shooting star. I hope you enjoyed our first video. Please remember that if you've liked this video, that you would like it below. And if you like our channel, to please subscribe. It does help us with the YouTube algorithm. Let us know what you think by leaving a comment below. We do love hearing from you. So until the next time, take care.